Coming up on 60 Minutes. Crunch time in the Madeleine McCann investigation.
That is the golden nugget that they're looking for.
As police zero in.
Scary, just scary. He's a danger for the public.
The brave woman who could shed new light
He recorded everything.
on this 18-year mystery.
If the crime against me had been investigated, that Madeleine would still be at home with her parents.
Welcome to the 60 Minutes podcast Extra Minutes. Today we'll be talking about our story on the Madeleine McCann case, the most high-profile missing child case in history. Joining me now is my colleague, Nichola. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is a story that's been ongoing with no ending still.
No ending. 18 years on and no ending. See, the reason why we're doing this story, when we're doing it now, is because there's been a renewed search in Portugal. And so obviously that's brought it back into the headlines in the last week. But yes, at this stage, still no answers as to where Madeleine McCann is.
Riding the highs and lows of, the poor families and the world that's interested and very sympathetic about this case. We've seen searches before. They've led nowhere. What's different about this one, in your opinion? Certainly about the timing of this one.
Well, the timing, I think, is the important thing in this one, is because the prime suspect, Christian Bruckner, is set to be released in September of this year. It's a race against the clock to try and keep him behind bars, because even though he is the prime suspect, they have no forensic evidence to keep him locked up for Madeleine McCann's case. So they are trying all that they can to keep him behind bars. And obviously this search is hoping to maybe come up with something. It's wrapped up. We still have no answers. I mean, they have said that they have taken some things away. What that is, we don't really know. It's very, I've been talking to a few reporters who are actually on the ground, and a lot of them don't actually know themselves what's happening. Everything is quite quiet. And I think a lot of people as well, reporters who have been involved in this case for a long time, have been taken back and shocked by the fact that this search has just kind of happened out of nowhere. A lot of people were surprised by the fact that, all of a sudden they're searching again, and it comes at a big, big cost.
Yeah, £300,000.
Yes, correct.
For 2-3 days of searching.
Yeah.
The reporting around it was that it came after a tip-off, but there is a desperation to it as well. I mean, we're still trying to get to the bottom of that, aren't we?
Yeah.
Did somebody inform on something? Is it because, as you say, Christian Bruckner is likely to walk free, is eligible from September? One last throw of the dice.
Totally.
Maybe all of it.
I think they are racing to try and find some kind of forensic evidence. The Sun did this big investigation where they have lots of USB sticks with photographs and things like that on it. But we don't actually have any evidence that links to Maddie McCann. So obviously they're trying to find something.
No physical or forensic.
Correct.
In the form of DNA or fingerprints. It is the most fascinating scenario. I mean, you have the chief prosecutor saying, we have evidence that Madeleine McCann is dead, and we have evidence that Christian Bruckner murdered her.
We have evidence, and we come to the conclusion that Madeleine McCann is dead and Christian B. murdered her.
He has said that to the world, and yet they can't charge him. To think that this man, who they believe has done this, it's a very brave thing to accuse somebody of murder, that he could walk free. And we know he is a bad man. I mean, he has a record as long as anyone's arm of hurting children, hurting women, terrible chats with other pedophiles.
Yeah.
It is a scary prospect.
We interview Hazel B. And she is a alleged rape victim of Christian Bruckner. It's a terrifying story. Her story is terrifying. And she is obviously, fronted court. She has forfeited her anonymity to talk about her case, and sadly was acquitted in October last year.
Hazel is somebody that I wanted to talk to for a long time. She's an Irish woman who, when she was 20, so 21 years ago, in 2004, so 3 years before Madeleine McCann went missing, she was on a holiday, working holiday, in Portugal, not far from where Maddie and her family would end up. 20, having the time of her life.
Yeah, yeah.
Living in an apartment on her own, comes home for the first time on her own. She's normally with a group of friends and the boyfriend at that time. Falls asleep on the bed, fully dressed, wakes up to her name being called by a stranger.
Yeah, and she doesn't know how he knew her name. frightening, terrifying. He was dressed all in black, only had a mask on, in which he could see his eyes, was holding a knife.
How many times did he rape you?
3. 3 times. Yeah, twice in my bedroom and once on the breakfast bar.
Did you think you'd survive?
Honestly, no. That's the truth. A man dressed in black with a knife and he's carrying out these horrendous acts on you, and he clearly hates you, he clearly doesn't like you, he wants to hurt you. I don't think it would be wrong of me to say that I felt like I was going to die.
Terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, worst nightmare. Worst nightmare. And what happened for the next couple of hours after that is very distressing. The fact that she's a functioning, fighting, wonderful woman is extraordinary given what she went through. Because not only did she encounter Christian Bruckner, is her allegation.
Yes.
This man who she identified because of his piercing blue eyes. Back then she told Portuguese police he was German, English speaking, with a German accent.
Yeah.
He had slim build, but he had these piercing blue eyes. And that's all she could see of him.
Yeah.
But as much as she'd like to forget those eyes, she can't.
Yeah, to this day, she talks about it in the interview, doesn't she, that she can still, picture those really piercing blue eyes.
Look, I completely understand why maybe people in the public might say, how can you recognise someone by their eyes? I get it, I completely understand. But when all you can see of this person is their eyes, you don't have a choice whether or not you remember them. They're just there.
But not only does she have this awful, unimaginable experience with this man who she's identified as Christian Bruckner, but then she is treated a double blow, really, by the Portuguese police. And they didn't believe her. They didn't investigate. According to her, the only investigation was to follow her around to see if she'd invited this sexual attack. I just don't know how resilient do you have to be?
Yeah. She said at the time, obviously, she went to police and, like you said, they didn't believe her. She went to hospital, had checks as you do, and they just kind of wheeled her out and left her there. And, this is a 20-year-old who is on a working holiday, has no close family there, and she's just left. I couldn't even imagine what she would have gone through. And, even to this day, I think, anyone who's been through something like that, it has really affected her life, but also her family's life, close friends of hers, her mum and dad, her brothers and sisters. And back to the image in 2020 when it was released, a picture of Christian Bruckner, she actually physically had a reaction to it. She had to go into the bathroom and was sick because she saw this picture and she knew from looking at that was her alleged attacker.
Yeah, and she'd not made any allegations against anyone before
Prior,
then.
no.
So from 2004 to 2020, she didn't know who her attacker was. She didn't make any allegations. She thought that person would never face justice. She is adamant that he's the man who attacked her. I think what's interesting about her case, though, too, is that she gives an insight into how the Portuguese police dealt with her and that investigation. And that is relevant and important in this because it gives us some insight into how the McCann family was treated.
Yep.
They were treated as suspects in the disappearance of Maddie, and while that's a natural first step, that you look for the people closest to the child because that's historically where you will find your offenders, that it would appear, and so the accusation has been, conduct that investigation properly so forensic evidence could have been lost.
Yeah. I mean, even we spoke to Charlie Hedges in our story as well, and he talks about the fact that, there were crime, certain areas that when they're investigating Maddie's case where, people were just walking through crime scenes, which they probably could have taped up earlier, evidence, crucial evidence could have been, tampered with if that's the case because of Portuguese authorities.
At the time, did Portuguese police fail Madeleine McCann?
Yes, I think the initial actions were lacking. So maybe with a different approach, we wouldn't be here talking about this now.
Getting it right is the difference between life and death.
Absolutely.
As you said, Hazel went to the same police station the McCanns went to. Same police officers are dealing with similar things.
But she's striking back, Hazel. She wants to make a difference, and she's now taken her complaint against the Portuguese authorities.
Correct, yeah.
To the European Court of Human Rights.
Yeah. Yeah, she's lodged her application. I think for Hazel, she's doing it as a sense of not necessarily closure, but I think she just wants the basic, if someone is in a situation like this, not that you'd want anyone, she wants people to be at least treated in a respectful manner. And that is a big thing that she talks about. Obviously she can't take back what has happened to her, but at least if she can, talk out and try and make some changes for any young person or anyone who is in a situation like this, that they are treated in a humane way.
That's right.
And that's mainly, her big message.
Remind them, collect forensic evidence. There was forensic evidence in her apartment that was never collected. Bloodstains, fingernails.
Yeah, she went back and had to see all this.
If she's right, and as we've heard, she's adamant that Christian Bruckner is the man who raped her, then that raises the questions, so many what ifs. If the police had taken her seriously, would he have been out to grab Maddie McCann and murder her, as the German chief prosecutor believes he did?
Yeah. Yeah, she says that in our interview. She says, maybe if my case was investigated in a proper manner, perhaps Maddie would be at home now with her mum and dad.
That's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
If the Portuguese police had believed you, do you believe Madeleine McCann would be here today?
Yes, I believe that Madeleine would still be at home with her parents.
What do you think makes this search so desperate?
One could think maybe they've done this search to try and find something before it is too late, because September isn't too far away.
No, of course. And, legally, they only get one chance at charging this man or anyone. I mean, that's the law here too.
Yes.
If they charge him, and because they don't have the forensic evidence, they don't have strong enough material to convict him, then he walks free and can never be charged again. This is part of their thinking, that if they don't charge him, but they search and find something, then they have a stronger case. Yeah. This is being seen as the final search, but of course any tip-off, any admissions could lead to further searches. Christian Wolters, the chief prosecutor in Germany, said to me, this is it. This is the only person they're looking at. They have looked at everything else. There is nothing else to look at. So if he walks off into the night, never to be seen again, then this will remain an unsolved case. And what is heartbreaking for many people is that they believe they know who did it.
Christian Bruckner does have a history, and there are lots of reports saying that he will, if he's allowed to walk free, he will go to a country where there is no extradition or disappear, and they'll never be able to chase it up again. He's gone.
The one interesting thing, the one glimmer of hope might be, if that's the case, if that plays out that way, that there might be a chance that the UK might take some sort of action. The Portuguese, more unlikely, but that there is a way that, and we're yet to understand fully how that would work, but UK legal system will step in at some point.
Yeah. And the Madeleine McCann Fund, they were just given extra money only in April. Maybe another jurisdiction could step in and try and find something. I don't know. But otherwise, I think this search really is a race against time to try and find something, because, like you said, it is one of the world's most prolific missing persons case, and people are searching for answers, and for the family, the McCanns, you couldn't even imagine what they're going through, and the glimmer of hope.
I know,
to have some kind of answers.
Every time you can't imagine what they must be going through when their daughter's name hits the headlines yet again, and another search is called, and we hear nothing beyond that. There's a chance that the prosecutors have got it wrong. I mean, certainly the defence has said in other allegations against Christian Bruckner that they were weak, and he ends up being acquitted. Acquitted because, according to the judge, the initial investigation was so poorly done.
Yes.
Which, again, for Hazel Behan is heartbreaking.
Yeah, heartbreaking. And I mean, in that case as well, that's going through an appeal at the moment.
I know. How brave is she? And she sat in a room opposite this man who she did monstrous things to her, made to sit in a position where she had eye contact with him. And the worst, she said, beyond, apart from what he did to her, what she alleges he did to her, this was the worst moment in her life. And she's prepared to go back in there and do it all again if there's a retrial.
She said in our interview that it was the worst. In fact, at one point she wanted to walk out and never walk back in there for day 2.
She's very impressive and living the terrible impact of what she suffered as a 20-year-old.
She said again in our interview that day she might not have died, but she's lost spiritually. She's gone.
And whether he killed me physically or not, spiritually, that was me. I was gone. I was done that day. That was, I didn't exist anymore.
Her spirit is strong, though.
Yes, her spirit
and
is very
she's
strong.
certainly worth watching, don't you think?
100%.
She's a great chat.
She's very great chat. Speaks so well.
Well, thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
been good fun working with you on this one.
Likewise.
Yeah, thank you. And if you want to see that story, if you missed it on Sunday night, check out the 60 Minutes YouTube channel.